Elijah Cole moved like a whisper. At 72, his knees ached when the weather changed, and his hands had forgotten the steady grip of youth. But there was still a precision to the way he placed each step, a rhythm, a silent beat only he could hear. To the outside world, he was just another elderly black man in a tattered coat, pushing a grocery cart down the cracked concrete of Rose Hill Market's parking lot. Bent but not broken. Eyes down, mouth closed. No one asked his name. No one knew he had once walked through fire with his bare feet and danced through shadows with steel in his hands. He passed the lifted trucks and bumper stickers like, "Don't tread on me," and "Born free, die armed." He ignored the stares. In Rose Hill, a town forgotten by progress but clinging hard to old power, you learned not to react. Elijah stopped beside a shopping cart corral. One bag of rice, a loaf of bread, a dented can of chili. That was his haul today. He moved slow because he had no reason to rush, and because some habits, like scanning your surroundings, never leave you. Not after Saigon, not after Caracas, not after 34 years in the world's darkest corners, doing things the world pretended didn't need doing. Then came the sound. Boots scuffing asphalt, the chuckle of young men who'd never been told no. Travis Hartwell, 6'2", ex-varsity, current warehouse manager, beer-bellied and red-faced. The kind of man who wore his racism like cologne, not subtle, not polite, and meant to choke. His father owned the hardware store. His uncle was a deputy. His older brother had disappeared a black kid in 2009 and never faced a day in court. Travis wasn't the worst of them, but he was the loudest, and today he had an audience. "You dropped something, old man," Travis called, grinning as he kicked a can toward Elijah's feet. It clanged hollow on the pavement. Elijah didn't respond, just picked up the can, not his, and placed it in the nearby trash bin. Travis frowned. "Hey, I'm talking to you. You deaf or just think you're better than me?" A few of Travis's buddies, guys in flannel and trucker caps, leaned against a Chevy nearby. One lit a cigarette. Another pulled out his phone. Elijah turned slowly. His eyes met Travis's, quiet and unreadable. "Not deaf," Elijah said, voice calm. "Just not interested." Travis's smile vanished. "You think you're better than me, boy?" The word hit the air like a match dropped in a gas tank. But Elijah didn't flinch, just looked at the younger man with the expression of someone examining a bug on a windshield. Curious, detached, unbothered. "I think you're loud," Elijah said evenly, "and not very smart." A slow whistle came from Travis's left. A few laughs. Travis's face flushed red. "You think you're safe out here 'cause you're old?" He sneered, stepping closer. "You think just 'cause you don't run your mouth, I won't put you on the ground?" Elijah set his grocery bag inside the cart, then straightened. Not tall, but steady. His coat shifted slightly, and for the first time, Travis noticed how the old man's hands didn't shake, how his posture didn't sag, how his eyes, dark, unblinking, had no fear in them at all. "You've had 3 beers, Elijah said almost casually. 2 with lunch, 1 in the truck. Your balance is already off. Your right leg favors inward when you walk. Old football injury, torn meniscus." Travis blinked. Elijah kept going. "Your friends behind you won't help. One's filming. One's too scared. The third's got a knife but doesn't know how to use it. What the hell?" "You come at me," Elijah said, stepping forward, "and you'll leave with fewer teeth than you started the day with." A beat of silence, then a laugh. Awkward, shaky, from Travis. "You threatening me, old man?" "No," Elijah said. "I'm warning you." But Travis couldn't back down. Not in front of his friends. Not with that phone recording. So he stepped forward, hand raised in a mock slap, grinning wide. And that's when Elijah moved. Like a shadow in motion. A whisper through wind. One hand gripped Travis's wrist, gentle like shaking hands. The other tapped the man's chest, a subtle pressure. Travis staggered back 2 steps, then dropped to his knees, gasping. His body didn't work. His limbs trembled like jelly. His mouth moved without sound. "What did you do?" Elijah leaned down. "Pressure point disrupts diaphragm and balance. You'll breathe again in 30 seconds. He straightened and turned to walk away. "I suggest you use that time to think about who you put your hands on." The parking lot was silent. Even the phone had stopped recording. Elijah pushed his cart forward, his steps calm, steady. Behind him, Travis coughed, loud and ugly, and Elijah smiled, just slightly. Like the old lion who doesn't need to roar. The town of Rose Hill wasn't big. Word traveled faster than light, and memory ran longer than bloodlines. By sundown, everyone knew what had happened in the parking lot. They said a black man half dead with age had made Travis Hartwell drop to his knees like a crying boy. They said he didn't even swing, just touched him, and Travis collapsed. They said it was voodoo. or some kind of drug, or the devil. No one asked what Travis had done to deserve it. At the Rusty Hinge bar, Travis sat nursing a shot of bourbon with 3 unopened beers lined like soldiers at attention. His eyes were glassy, not from alcohol, from humiliation. "Man, you let that fossil play you," said Blake, his friend with the camo jacket and weak chin. "Whole damn town's talking. Facebook's lit up. Even your uncle posted about it." "Shut up," Travis snapped. "Hey," Blake raised his hands. "Just saying. You want to fix it? You better make a move fast, before that old bastard becomes a legend." Travis stared into the glass. "I don't know what he did," he muttered. "My body just shut down. I couldn't breathe." "You were drunk." "I wasn't that drunk." Another silence. Then Blake leaned forward, whispering like they were plotting war. "My cousin's got a buddy in Harlan. Used to run muscle in Atlanta. Deals with problems. You want this guy gone? We can make it look like—" "No," Travis cut in. "No cops. No outside guys. This is my town. I'll handle it." His voice was cold now. "I just need to know what he is." Elijah Cole sat in his rented room above the laundromat, cross-legged on the floor, breathing in silence. The walls were bare, one folded blanket on a mattress. A small shelf held 3 books, each worn from time and thumb. No TV, no phone, just stillness and dust. In the corner, a small wooden box sat closed. Inside were relics of another life. Cloth, black and folded. Steel, silent and curved. Memories too sharp to touch. He breathed in, held it, then breathed out. It had been 20 years since he last touched the darkness. Since the temple in Ibaraki, where the storm met the mountain. Since he'd walked away from the path of blood, with hands that could kill before thought could form. But silence did not protect one from the foolish. He stood and looked out the window. A black Dodge Ram rolled by slow, like a predator sniffing for movement. Travis sat behind the wheel, one hand on the steering wheel, the other holding a beer. He didn't look up, but Elijah knew. The boy would return. 2 days passed. Elijah moved through Rose Hill like a ghost. He shopped at the small grocer, drank tea at the bench near the railway, nodded at those who greeted him, rare but not absent. Some old-timers recognized something in his walk, the quiet way he scanned rooftops, the stillness in his spine, the way his hands were never in his pockets. "Used to know a man like you," said old Miss Bailey, who ran the flower stall. "Wasn't nothing but peace in him until someone kicked his dog. Then he burned half a city block." Elijah smiled. "I don't own a dog." She handed him a daffodil. "Then may the wind stay behind you." That night a knock came at his door. Not loud, measured. Elijah opened it. A girl stood there, maybe 20, mixed race with freckles and a nose ring, nervous. "You don't know me," she said quickly, "but I saw what happened with Travis. I just wanted to say—" She hesitated, then exhaled. "Be careful. He ain't used to losing, and he's dangerous when he's wounded." Elijah nodded once. "Thank you." She started to leave, then paused. "You could leave. Get ahead of it. I've been running long enough." She stared at him for a moment. "There's something different about you," she said quietly. "I'm just an old man." She looked at his hands. "You're not." Then she was gone. Travis sat in his garage with the lights off, YouTube on his laptop. He searched pressure point, knockout, old man kung fu. Black ninjas real? The videos made him laugh, but the rage under it didn't. He remembered Elijah's eyes. Not angry, not mocking, just watching, like a panther behind a chain-link fence. "Old bastard thinks he's untouchable," he muttered. He opened his locker. Inside, a rusted baseball bat, a hunting knife, a pistol he never used but kept for nights just like this one. "No more games." Elijah woke before dawn. Old habit. He washed his face, boiled water, and laid out a small mat. As the kettle hissed, he unfolded a strip of cloth, faded, frayed at the edges. He tied it around his forehead. The black bandana, a whisper of old wars, a calling card from another life, the symbol of a man who had once trained in the Tiger School, who had scaled the walls of Gwangju without sound, who had ended lives in silence and vanished before dawn. The world had forgotten what silence could do. Elijah had not. Later that day at the hardware store, Travis stood with a smirk on his lips. He waited until Elijah entered, waited until he reached for a box of nails. Then he spoke. "Didn't think you'd show your face again." Elijah looked at him, said nothing. "You embarrassed me, old man, in front of everyone. That ain't something I forgive." Elijah turned to the clerk. "I'll take this, please." Travis stepped in front of him. "Maybe you didn't hear me." The clerk, young and pale, froze. Elijah tilted his head. "I hear just fine." Travis grinned wide, lips pulled tight. "Then hear this. You've got till sundown to get out of my town. Elijah didn't blink. I don't take orders from children. Travis raised the bat from under the counter. The clerk stepped back. You really want to do this in front of witnesses? Elijah asked. Travis's hand trembled. Elijah didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't even tense. And in that stillness, Travis felt it again. That sickness in his gut, that cold sweat, the memory of falling, breathless, helpless. He lowered the bat, but his eyes said the war wasn't over. Later that evening, Elijah sat on the bench outside Rose Hill Baptist, watching dusk settle like ash. The wind picked up. A truck rolled slow past the corner, then disappeared. He felt it then, the shift, the silence that wasn't peace, but preparation. The old ways had returned, and the lion had stirred. The town of Rose Hill blinked under the fading glow of dusk. Porch lights hummed on one by one, like old sentinels stirring in their sleep. Somewhere beyond the hills, coyotes howled into the wind, and the dry crackle of the summer grass whispered like paper before a flame. Inside his truck, Travis sat alone, breathing heavily, hand gripping the pistol on the passenger seat like it was the last thing keeping him from drowning. He had followed Elijah that evening, slow and quiet, headlights off, 1 block behind. Watched him walk with that same strange posture, upright, alert, like a wolf moving through territory it already owned. Elijah had walked past the library, through the park, and into the trail behind Widow Creek, a strange route for a man his age. He's not just going for a stroll, Travis muttered. He's leading me. He knew it. He didn't care. Tonight there would be no witnesses. No teenage girls filming from across the lot. No hardware store clerks gasping behind counters. Just trees, silence, and a reckoning. He got out, tucked the gun into his waistband, grabbed the bat, and followed Elijah into the woods. Elijah moved through the trees with reverence. He knew them, like a priest knows his chapel. The sound of his feet never cracked a twig. His breath was quiet, his hands loose, eyes scanning not for threats, but for intention. He could feel Travis behind him, like a tick crawling toward a vein. He stopped near a clearing and waited. No words, no movement, just stillness. A minute passed, then 2. Travis emerged, face flushed, bat raised, pistol half holstered. Elijah stood with his back to him. Turn around, Travis barked. Face me. Elijah did not move. I said turn around. Elijah's voice came soft as a shadow. You sure you want that? Travis felt something ancient rise in his gut. That same cold sweat, that same dread like sinking in quicksand. But he pushed through it. I don't give a damn what tricks you pulled last time, he growled. You ain't walking away from this one. Elijah turned, and for the first time Travis saw him truly. His posture wasn't hunched, it was coiled. His shoulders weren't frail, they were measured, and his eyes weren't tired, they were calculating. No rage, no fear, just perfect, complete control. Travis raised the bat. Elijah said nothing. And then, before Travis could even blink, he moved. The bat was gone from Travis's hands before he could swing. One twist, one step, one snap of the wrist, and it clattered to the dirt. The gun never reached. A foot met his thigh, dead center. A flash of motion like a whip. Travis stumbled backward, nearly vomiting from the shock. Then the hand came. Not a punch, not a slap. A tap, right under the collarbone. Travis's legs collapsed. Pain didn't even register, only shut down. Like someone had flipped a switch inside his chest. He hit the dirt hard, gasping, limbs locked, eyes wide. What the fuck are you? He wheezed. Elijah crouched beside him, calm, emotionless. You carry a weapon to feel powerful, he said softly, but you never learn to use your own body, your own breath. Your fear makes you sloppy, and you mistake violence for strength. Travis couldn't move. I've met men like you before, Elijah whispered. They all thought being loud made them dangerous. He leaned closer. It doesn't. And then he vanished into the trees. It was almost midnight when the sheriff found Travis crawling out of the woods, clothes soaked, face pale. No wounds, no bruises, no broken bones, but something far worse. Humiliation. Jesus, Travis, the sheriff muttered. What the hell happened? Travis looked at him with hollow eyes. Ghost, he whispered. News spread fast. No official report was filed. Travis wouldn't speak of it. Just quit showing up at the bar. Stopped driving around. Spent more time locked in his garage than at work. But people noticed, and people talked, especially the old-timers. One of them, Calvin Mays, who'd served in Okinawa, sat at the cafe and murmured, That ain't no regular man. I saw that look once before. Long time ago. In a village they never talk about in the books. One man, all black, moved like smoke, killed 4 commandos in a minute. They called him the ghost that breathes. People laughed, but not too loud. Elijah kept walking, kept buying tea, kept watching the wind move through trees. He wore the same clothes, said the same few words, but something had shifted. People gave him a little more space, a little more silence, and silence was home. Still, not everyone was silent. Not everyone learned. Travis's cousin, Eli, fresh out of lockup and full of dumb pride, came to town the next week, heard the stories, didn't believe them. "I'll make that mummy kneel," he said. He went looking for Elijah that evening, never came back. 3 hours later, he was found by the railroad, sobbing and soaked, muttering about shadows in the trees and a finger that turned off his legs. No charges were filed, no details given. But one thing became clear. Elijah Cole was not a man you followed into the dark. Late one night, as the moon bled silver over the rooftops, a letter arrived under Elijah's door. No address, no stamp, just a single folded note. Inside, in careful handwriting, it read, "We know who you are, and we remember what you did in the Valley of Ash. If you're here, it must be for a reason. Do not let the fools distract you. The Ember Circle is still watching." Elijah read it once, then burned it. And yet, beneath the peace, a storm brewed. The mayor, under pressure from Travis's family, began whispering about strange newcomers. Code words. The sheriff, old and weary, warned Elijah kindly but firmly, "You're not wanted here, son. I don't know what you did to Hartwell, but this town's got its limits." Elijah simply bowed his head. But inside, the past stirred, and far away in a city of glass and stone, an old enemy awoke. One evening, as Elijah walked past the schoolhouse, he saw a child trip and fall. He moved faster than anyone could see, caught the boy mid-fall, placed him gently on the grass. The teacher stared, not at what he did, but how he did it. No sound, no hesitation, like it was a reflex born in war. She said nothing, but told her husband that night, "There's something ancient in that man," and she was right. In the days that followed, Travis spiraled. He drank harder, shouted at walls, screamed about conspiracies, but mostly he feared. Feared the quiet, feared the nights, feared the possibility that Elijah wasn't just an old man, but a weapon. One walking, breathing, thinking weapon that had simply chosen not to destroy him yet. And that made him angrier than anything, because he knew, deep down, he had already lost. The desert wind shifted. It was subtle at first, just a breeze, whispering through the sycamores lining Main Street. But Elijah felt it. Not on his skin, not in the air, in his bones. The same way a wolf smells the scent of blood on wind, Elijah knew something was coming. The Ember Circle had found him again, not by accident, not by rumor, but by blood. There was always a price for leaving, a price for silence, and now they had come to collect. Rose Hill slept under a cloudless sky when the first sign appeared. The butcher's van burned out behind Miller's grocery. No explosion, no theft, just scorched steel, marked with 3 concentric circles carved deep into the ash. Elijah walked past it the next morning and didn't even slow his steps. He had seen that mark before. He had worn it once. It wasn't just a symbol, it was a signature, a challenge. Travis, meanwhile, hadn't left his house in days. He sat in his recliner with a rifle across his lap, sweat beading at his brow, whispering half-mad prayers to whatever broken god he still believed in. His mother knocked once. He didn't answer. His cousin called twice. He didn't pick up. All he could think about was the forest and the old man who moved like wind through steel. But fear wasn't enough to change him. It only made him more bitter, more reckless. And when he saw the burn van on Facebook, he didn't feel fear. He felt hope. Because if someone was coming for Elijah, maybe he didn't have to do anything at all. Maybe he could watch the old man bleed. The Ember Circle did not knock when they arrived. They didn't threaten or shout or break windows. They simply stood. 3 men, dressed in plain clothes, but their eyes were knives and their breath was too quiet. Elijah saw them from his porch, sipping tea. He set the cup down and walked barefoot into the street. The first spoke, in Japanese. Elijah answered, calm, crisp, precise. To the people on the sidewalk, it looked like 2 old friends exchanging pleasantries. But to those who knew the code, the conversation was a death poem. The man in the center, tall, scarred, with a limp in his right leg, stepped forward and held out something small. A broken ring, tarnished, blackened. Elijah's expression did not change, but his breath slowed and his eyes darkened. The man dropped the ring into the dirt, stepped back, and waited. That night the sky cracked, the winds turned, and Elijah buried the ring beneath his garden, not as a memory, but as a promise. The time for hiding was over. In the dojo beneath his floorboards, hidden beneath 30 years of dust and silence, Elijah lit a single candle and stripped off his shirt. His body was a map of war, scars across the ribs, burns down the back, knife wounds, bullet trails, symbols tattooed in a language that had no living speakers left. He moved like liquid steel, breath in, motion out, each strike silent, each stance lethal. He wasn't training, he was remembering. Meanwhile, Travis watched from the shadows. He had seen the strangers arrive, seen Elijah disappear beneath his porch, and something inside him snapped. He no longer cared if Elijah was a ghost, a killer, a demon in human skin. He just wanted to see him fall. So he made a call. The sheriff arrived, old and tired, knocked gently on Elijah's door. "I got people asking questions, son," he muttered. "Things happening that don't make sense." Elijah didn't speak, just looked at him. And for the first time in years, the sheriff took a step back. "I've seen killers before," he said, "but I've never seen peace like the kind you carry." Elijah placed a hand on the man's shoulder, software human. "I won't let the fire touch this town," he said. Then he walked past him, into the night. They came at midnight, all of them, not 3, but 9. The Ember Circle's elite, the ones who had trained Elijah, bled beside him, and later tried to kill him. They had one mission: erase the ghost. Elijah met them in the clearing beyond Widow Creek. No weapons, no armor, just breathe, just silence. What followed was not a fight. It was an execution, but not his. They came with blades. He met them with stillness. They moved in formation. He moved like a river through fire. Bones cracked, wind howled, and when the dust settled, only one man stood. Travis watched from the ridge, binoculars shaking. He had expected violence. But this was poetry written in pain. One man, old, barefoot, alone, had dismantled a legion, and in that moment, Travis felt something he had never felt in his life: shame. Because all his hate, all his noise, all his rage, it had never made him powerful, only loud, only blind, only small. He drove to Elijah's cabin the next morning, parked, got out. Elijah was sitting on the porch, a cup of tea, 2 chairs, one empty. Travis didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, "I hated you." Elijah nodded. "I know." Travis clenched his fists. "I didn't understand you." Elijah sipped his tea. Silence. Then Travis whispered, "I don't want to be that man anymore." Elijah motioned to the empty chair. "Then sit." And in the days that followed, something changed. Rose Hill grew quiet, not in fear, in reverence. The man once mocked as just an old black weirdo became something else. A guardian, a myth, a shadow that watched over the town like a spirit carved from the bones of war. And Travis, he didn't become a ninja, but he became a man. Years later, when Elijah passed, quietly without sound, in his sleep, they buried him beneath the sycamores. No headstone, just a ring of 3 stones and a cherry blossom tree. And on the plaque at the town square, where his story would be whispered by children, read the words, "Here lies Elijah Cole, the ghost who chose peace."